walls.
On the morning of June 27, 2025, Manhattan's weather was unremarkable, neither too hot nor too harsh. But outside the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, the temperature had already begun to rise by 7:30 a.m. The heat, however, had nothing to do with the climate. Instead, it came from the media frenzy surrounding what was being called the trial of the year, the 30th hearing in the case against Sean Diddy Combs. The charges against him were staggering: orchestrating illegal sex parties, money laundering, and conspiring with high-profile figures in entertainment and politics to conceal a sprawling human trafficking network. Over 120 journalists had camped outside the courthouse since dawn. CNN deployed 2 satellite trucks, while Reuters set up its own makeshift broadcasting rig. Inside, the 3rd floor had been locked down under maximum security, with only 4 authorized cameras permitted to live-stream the proceedings, every signal closely monitored by federal officials. Diddy sat near the defendant's bench, no more than 3 meters from the judge. Clad in a dark suit and black sunglasses, he clutched a personal notebook, one of the few items he'd been allowed to bring into the courtroom. For the first 27 minutes of the trial, he didn't utter a word. At 8:32 a.m., his legal team, 2 defense attorneys and a human rights specialist with experience in international investigations, stood silent as prosecutors grilled them about a series of leaked emails. The correspondence between Diddy and an unidentified figure known only as Delta 5 allegedly detailed arrangements for gatherings at his Calabasas estate. The defense offered no rebuttals. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension. For 15 minutes, the only sounds were the rustling of documents and the steady tap of Judge Matthews' gavel as he fought to maintain order. At the prosecution's table, a sharp-eyed woman with her hair pulled tight behind thin-framed glasses repeated one phrase like a mantra: 3-layered system. She was referring to the digital security apparatus Diddy had supposedly used to erase evidence, video recordings of what she called sexual executions. But no one could have predicted that the real explosion wouldn't come from the data. It would come from Jennifer Lopez. At 8:44 a.m., the east door swung open. J.Lo strode in unannounced, her name absent from any witness list. In her hand was a red-sealed folder stamped "Confidential, FBI." 2 U.S. Marshals flanked her, earpieces wired directly to Central Command. A murmur erupted in the press gallery. A security agent leaned in to whisper to the judge, but Matthews didn't pause. He simply nodded, allowing the session to continue, though his eyes flicked to the defendant's bench, where Diddy's eyebrow twitched upward for the first time. Jennifer didn't glance at him. She didn't acknowledge the lawyers. She stepped up to the witness stand, placed the folder on the wooden surface, and pulled the microphone close. Then she began to read. Her voice was steady. Each sentence was a revelation: dates, locations, a roster of code names for guests invited to what she called scripted entertainment sessions. And just like that, the floorboards trembled. In an unprecedented bipartisan move, 17 members of Congress co-signed a resolution, a rare act of unity in an election year. Behind the scenes, an internal memo from the Congressional Oversight Committee revealed plans to summon Department of Justice officials for questioning, probing whether state surveillance systems had turned a blind eye to red flags for years. What had begun as a scandal surrounding one artist had, within 24 hours, metastasized into a full-blown institutional crisis. This was no longer about guilt or innocence, it was about power, the scale of influence one man wielded beyond the reach of conventional justice. Diddy remained silent, but his spokesperson issued a terse statement to Reuters: "We do not recognize any data outside legally authenticated evidence." Legal analysts recognized the subtext. This was more than a denial. It was the opening salvo in a strategy to dismiss any leaked footage as inadmissible, a tactic seen, and sometimes crushed, in past high-profile cases. That evening, Fox News replayed a chilling 2018 interview clip. As Diddy smirked into the camera, his words echoed, "It's not the secret that scares me, it's who's going to tell it before I do." The frame froze on his smile. No one smiled back. On July 1, 2025, a duplicate of the studio cult.vid file landed in a classified meeting at the U.S. National Security Advisor's office. Labeled temporarily unverified, potentially damaging to public trust, it marked the first time in 2 decades that an entertainment figures case had reached cabinet-level scrutiny before the DOJ could rule on its legality. The footage didn't depict explicit crimes. Instead, it exposed a chilling system: color-coded zones, role assignments, and human monitoring. 3. Experiment stations, rigged with professional lighting and recording equipment, were hidden beneath a property once owned by Diddy's son. 1 audio clip, analyzed by forensic experts, captured a voice print matching Diddy's. If you don't shoot, nothing happens. You get that? It's all a performance. Stanford University launched an urgent linguistic study, dissecting the phrase's manipulative command structure. Meanwhile, NSA algorithms flagged a pattern. Diddy's charity budgets aligned with activity logs from studios under the SUM codename. The investigation was no longer about individual crimes. It had uncovered a self-sustaining complicity network. By afternoon, an emergency federal session convened, attended by the DOJ, FBI, Treasury, Homeland Security, and the National Ethics in the Arts Committee. Their question: did a structured, high-level human exploitation system exist? Minutes were sealed, but one lawmaker broke ranks. If what we saw is real, this isn't just about Diddy. Within 36 hours, sponsors severed ties. A major streaming platform scrubbed his catalog. At 10:07 p.m. radio stations in New York and Miami went silent. The media's focus shifted, not if he was guilty, but how many had known and stayed silent. Even the FBI fractured. Senior investigators protested restricted access to the full footage. Leaked emails from the ethics division hinted at interference. Was someone steering the investigation? A DOJ insider confessed lobbying had blocked the case from being classified as transnational organized crime, a move that would have triggered international hearings and witnesses no one wanted to face. Diddy's legal team doubled down. No court has validated these videos. But a leaked federal map revealed 12 new locations, 8 tied to Diddy or his son's shell companies. The net widened. Collaborators, distributors, even a director who'd worked with him in 2021 came forward, describing iron doors and dual-camera security around filming zones. Emergency subpoenas followed. The probe had escalated from targeting a man to dismantling an entire framework. By July 2nd, state agencies were compiling systemic risk factors in entertainment, a term reserved for existential threats. Diddy, unconvicted, had become the fulcrum of a collapse, not just of a career, but of public trust. When federal agents breached the steel door of that basement at dawn, there was no shouting. Just the cold beam of a camera light sweeping over soundproofed walls, industrial concrete, and a streak of red paint, scuffed by someone running, falling, or being dragged. That afternoon, the DOJ suspended all court proceedings under a never-before-used justification. The truth in this matter has exceeded the jurisdictional capacity of a single court. The case was resealed, not to protect the investigation, but to protect the law itself. Diddy vanished. No photos. No statements. Rumors swirled. Had he fled via a prearranged diplomatic back channel? One source claimed his last login pinged a U.S. military satellite band, inaccessible to civilians. The public's outrage faded into hollow disbelief. How many knew? How many looked away? As Congress drafted sweeping arts regulations, unseen since Watergate, a silent question pulsed through law enforcement. If Diddy wasn't the mastermind, what system empowered his son to build a shadow empire untouched for years? No one has closed the case. Because the system now under scrutiny is the same one that cracked it open and left it bleeding.